Thank you, everyone, and welcome to the August 9th, 2016 meeting of the Rotterdam Town Board. Just to let you know, this evening we entered into the agenda session at 5:37 p.m. At approximately 7:02 p.m. we added Resolution 205.16 to read as follows. Authorize the supervisor or his designee to enter into an agreement with the Rotterdam Police Benevolent Association to settle all claims related to employee grievance upon retirement. The motion was made by Councilmember Christou, seconded by Councilmember Mel Herrera, all voting in favor of adding that resolution to the agenda. So, Ms. Marco, would you please call the roll?
Sure. Mr. Christou?
Present.
Mr. Lamore?
Present.
Mrs. Miller Herrera? Present. Mr. Villano?
Here.
Mr. Thomason?
Present.
5 present.
Thank you. Would you all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? And Mr. Lamora, would you lead us in the pledge?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So I have a few items to bring up, but I'll do that at the end of the meeting, so we can move into the public hearings. Ms. Marco, would you please read public hearing 1?
Sure. To create Chapter 99 clothing bins, donation bins, and recycling bins of the Code of the Town of Rotterdam. It is the intent of the Town of Rotterdam to support and encourage in a responsible manner the placement and use of attended and unattended clothing bins, donation bins, and recycling bins. These bins are most commonly used to collect for recycling, resale, or reuse general household goods such as clothing, shoes, books, and small appliances. This chapter is intended to protect the public health, safety, and welfare and protect the environment by establishing rules and regulations for clothing bins, donation bins, and recycling bins. And nobody signed up.
Okay. Let's see. I think that covers it. Anyone on that, just to see in case someone came in late didn't understand on that, what we're doing, okay? No one wants to speak on public hearing 1, so we'll declare public hearing 1 closed at this time. Public hearing 2, please.
To create Article 11 of Chapter 266, Vehicles and Traffic, entitled Article 11, Driver Responsibility Fee, the Town Board of the Town of Rotterdam finds that there is a cost to the town associated with the adjudication of violations before the Town Justice Court, and that the town is not reimbursed for such cost. Therefore, the Town Board finds that it would be in the best interest of the town to authorize the imposition of a driver responsibility fee to recover the costs associated with the adjudication of such fees as set forth in this local law.
Okay, anyone for that?
No.
Public hearing?
No.
Just by chance, anyone?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor. As a member of the public, I would like to be heard on this.
Please, go ahead.
Not only am I a member of the public of the town of Rotterdam, I also happen to be an attorney. I'm somebody who has defended individuals charged with traffic offenses in Schenectady County and in other courts around the Capital District. The entire concept that this particular local law is going to be based upon is a false premise. The intention of this law is to make up for the cost that the town is not reimbursed for. Whereas the court expenses as budgeted for the 2016 year were expected without employee benefits to be $310,754. Whereas in 2014, which is the last year that it's been budgeted, and in our town budget it's been stated exactly the amount of revenue that we received from forfeited bails, fines, and other revenue sources from the court, it was $404,000. Our court is not meant to be a cash cow. However, effectively it is. It collects fines and fees from our neighbors. Nobody who is charged with a traffic offense and ultimately ends up, even if they plea it down, gets off scot-free. Between the fine of $150, surcharges of $85, sometimes the surcharges are even greater. The cost does fall upon them. And many of those people are also represented by attorneys at the cost of $250 to $300, even on a traffic offense. You know, nobody's saying a slap on the wrist of $500 to $600 is light for simply getting a modest speeding ticket. In any event, the thing is, not only this, but also there's going to be coming up a raise of fees on the Water District 3. We are feeing and taxing this town to death. Revenue raising by various sources and fees is not fiscally prudent. We're driving people out of here. Whether you call it a brush tax, whether you call it a water rent increase, or whether this time we're basically creating a sin tax on people that happen to get tickets. But to say that the court does not pay for itself is patently false. Could we have a better court? Sure. Would I enjoy having conference rooms to talk with my defendants? Of course I would. Would a water cooler be nice? Sure. Is it something that we need at the expense of our neighbors? No. I certainly hope that the members of the Schenectady County Bar Association and other local bar members that do come and represent people in our local courts come out and say no. It was said a couple of meetings ago that the reason that they were doing this is because, well, other courts had, and it was a way to raise money, particularly the town courts that were named by this administration were town courts in Nassau. Coincidentally, there are no town courts or village courts in the county of Nassau. Zero. So I can tell you that that statement that Nassau is doing it in their town courts is patently false because there are none. I ask people to come out in droves and to say no to another fee on our residents.
Okay, on some of your comments, I just want to make a couple of comments of my own, I guess. First of all, this fee would be placed on individuals who are obviously violating the laws, not placed on our residents who are not violating the laws. So let's start there. Secondly, the cost of the court is much more than $300,000. You know, including benefits and other costs, it's more likely closer to $450,000. So we are not covering our costs there. Your comments about the court, you know, understandably, I'm not, as you are, an attorney going to the court. However, I have been to the court on numerous occasions to see how the court is operating, to see the conditions for the people that are there, regardless of what they're there for. The conditions are not good. The court is very small. There's a number of improvements that we need to make. So in this case, you know, as we move forward, we're not just going to charge another fee just to charge another fee. It's in order to dedicate these resources towards improvements to the court, you know, not including the cost of the police protection that is necessary there, which are a couple of officers that have to be there every court night. And if there are other events that occur, other officers may be called in, there's an additional cost. So we will more than, you know, at this point, we're already exceeding our revenues. And if we want it to be more of a cost-neutral operation for the town, we need to do something about that. Secondly, we need to make the improvements. And if we continue to just look out at, I mean, you can look at this building, and I can take you around for those of you that literally come in the front door and come up the stairs and just come here. This area looks okay. I could take you to other parts of this building and show you the disrepair over the years that really has not been properly addressed. So there's a number of things that need to be accomplished, and the disrepair. If you go again, if you're not just going in the courtroom, but you go throughout the building and leading to the court, the stairwell, the entrances and exits there. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. So I'll say that much. As far as the Water 3, what Mr. Buono has brought up, the Water 3 water rent is $25 per household. The reason that water rent was not increased was because of several years ago, we had to put in a new water tank in that part of our town. They are in a separate system outside of Water 5. So for those of us that live outside of Rotterdam Junction, we're in Water 5. We're paying $75 water rent. In Junction, they're paying $25 for the water rent. But if you look at the cost of their water tax, it's much more than the rest of us, frankly, for a comparable priced home. So that's why it was left at 25. Having said that, just to give you some ideas on numbers here, Water 3 has currently an unreserved fund balance of about $199,000. What happens is, as the town goes and commits to repairs, for example, we made major repairs on Isabella Street. We had to replace a water line, there was backfill that was needed, road needed to be repaired, and $30,000, $40,000, I can't recall the exact number, to be honest with you, but it was a lot of money. Now, we couldn't just take the money out of reserves and just place it in there. We have to actually create under the comptroller's office guidance, we have to create a reserve fund. So over this year, as we go through the budget process, we are going to be creating reserve funds or capital or project funds, if you will, excuse me, for different items for the town. So whether it's Water 3, Water 5, the Highway Department, so that when Mr. Lamore, for example, wants to buy another vehicle, and he knows that he has, I'm just going to use numbers, $80,000 in his capital projects or equipment account, he can ask the board, can I take it from there and use it? Sure, it's there, use it. We're dedicating it to that fund. Right now, he has unrestricted, if you will, unreserved fund balances of over $750,000. But we have to make motions to move that money. There's a lot to do there. So what we're going to do again through this budget process, we're going to be creating capital projects. We're going to be utilizing reserves, utilizing tax dollars, utilizing basically the money that we take in for the town in all these different areas, and making them appropriate for future years and future boards and future department heads like Mr. Lamora to utilize when is necessary, and frankly not to always have to rely on the board when it comes to looking for bonding and other things, because other actions, if you will, which really hamstrings the town from time to time. So, having the money saved and utilizing it for a specific purpose is the way that we all do our own budgeting, and we'll be doing the same here going forward. So, all that happened with Water 3 is that Mr. The Department of Public Works, Mr. Longo, the Department of Public Works, our water department employees came up and said, what changes do we anticipate for Water 3, Water 5, etc. So one of the proposals was, well, we need to increase those fees in Water 3 to match what Water 5 is paying, to make it, to use the word, but balanced or fair, right? Now, we haven't had that discussion. We haven't made any motions for fees. We haven't done any of that. But we will be discussing that at a future meeting and calling for a public hearing for the schedule of fees. So just to make you aware of that, this is not something that will be done just because members of the board feel that it has to be done. Public hearings will be called to the public, and as well as the board members will have opportunities to speak on the matter. So I wanted to just give some clarity to some of the comments. Anyone else on public hearing 2?
I have one thing.
Go ahead.
I just want to say that it hasn't been that long since we sat up here and voted on a resolution to hire somebody at the town court to help assist with resolving cases, to move along the volume. The court does a high volume of cases, which causes crowding on the nights that we hold town court. I also am an attorney. I also have appeared in Rotterdam town court as well as others. I can't say I've ever seen a $500 fee on a speeding ticket, but
No, when you include the legal fee. The legal fee plus fines, I regularly see.
Your fees must be much higher than mine.
You need to adjust your fee schedule.
Well, I don't go there anymore. I prosecute instead, but that's okay.
That was good.
Knowing that we've actually are expending money right now to make sure that people aren't sitting there wasting their time, that the court isn't backlogged for hours into the evening, that things are getting resolved in a timely manner. I don't think it's wrong for us to continue with that goal and ensure that we have a courthouse that can deal with the volume of people who do have to come in, whose matters cannot be resolved by mail, whose matters are not being dealt with outside of regular court hours. So I think this is a good way for us to look at making a courthouse that is able to handle the volume. I don't think it's wrong to have a conference room speak to your client privately in. In fact, I think that's a right that every client should have. They have the right to privacy when having discussions with their counsel. So I think this is something we need to look at, and I'm glad we are having a public hearing on it. I tend to be okay with imposing a driver responsibility fee as somebody who's never had a speeding ticket before, so maybe that's a little judgmental, but I think if that's what helps us to have a court that can assist in, sorry. That could, I think we need to look at how we're dealing with all these people coming through our town court and make sure we have a court that can handle it.
But you also recognize as an attorney that there are certain areas of law where the state has stepped in and has actually filled the entire field with its legislation. The state, in its infinite wisdom, has set the fine schedule and has set the surcharge schedule and has set for certain various offenses like DWI additional surcharges that get added to a various offense. You know, the thing is, no courts around here do what we're doing. I have been in dozens of local courts. Fortunately, always as an attorney, as opposed to somebody sitting at one of the tables, wondering what was going to happen to him. But in any event, nobody else does this. I can assure you that Nassau does not do this, but I'm not aware of anybody else doing it. It is not a new fee that I want to impose on our neighbors.
I believe the state has allowed us the wiggle room for this, and we both interpret that differently, and that's why we're both attorneys.
And one of the things I'll just end with is that, you know, we all agree that the brush fee will be eliminated in 2018, which is great, but I received phone calls from other municipalities about the brush fee, how it was done, how we eliminated it, etc. And none of them were in favor of that, but I've also received phone calls from supervisors and council members of other municipalities about the court fee and saying, how are you doing that? You know, we're being told it cannot, that it couldn't be done, and frankly it can be done. There was a recent change to the state laws that would allow us to do this. So it is moving forward, and other municipalities are going to follow this. I doubt that we are the only municipality in the entire state of New York that's looking at this or even committing to doing this. Frankly, without looking at the hundreds of municipalities' agendas that are probably out there, whether they're online or somewhere else, I'm sure others are doing this somewhere in the state of New York, so we will not be the only ones. So, thank you everyone for your comments, and anyone else on this? No? Okay, we'll close the public hearing, number 2. Thank you very much. At this point, we have public comment privilege of the floor. Ms. Marco, who's first on the list?
Robert Godlewski.
Mr. Supervisor, Board, I can assure you I am not here to talk about anything on your agenda. I was having flashbacks listening to the discussion, but that's not why I'm here. I'm here to ask your support on an issue I've been working with the Mohonasen School District. Last summer, I went to a meeting at the school board, and there was concern about traffic on Helderberg Avenue between Crestwood Avenue and Bryan Crest. And I suggested at that time that maybe we could, I believe we have to go to the state and ask for a safe school zone. So we've had numerous letters, discussions with Senator Amador's office. Now, why after 60 years are we looking to put a safe school zone there? One of the biggest reasons is that Mohonasen has had quite a capital improvement project. They're moving their bus garage to the east side of their campus, but more importantly, where the bus garage is now, that's going to be a parking area for some of their events. They've also added more athletic fields to the west. So there's a concern by them, I've registered, about residents, students going back and forth to that campus. The thing that really opened everybody's eyes, though, the sidewalks are going in on Helderberg Avenue. Unfortunately, at this point, they're not in front of the bus garage. That's a story for another day. However, I was in this room about this time last year when the engineering firm, Schenectady County, gave their presentation. And what was very alarming, and I walked there all the time, many times. Now that's opposed to speed limit of 35 miles an hour, and they did a traffic study. The study showed them that 80% of the traffic on that road is exceeding 45 miles an hour. So clearly, something's not working there. I know I was over there the other day and I saw a police officer, and I'm sure he wasn't, reading a book. He was checking for speeders. But the problem is that in 60 years, the area has changed. All right. Unfortunately, there's a lot more people on the road also. I told the superintendent that I was going to come here tonight. And what I'm asking the board to do, and this is coming from Senator Amador's office, what they're telling us, school district and me, that we have to come to this board and ask this board to pass a resolution asking for that safe school zone and to forward that to Senator Amador's office. I'm not a lawyer. I'm only doing what they're telling us to do, okay? But that's why I'm here. And, I would like to think, I would hope that all of you can agree to this. And I have something I'm going to give the town clerk with some of the comments I've made, some contact and a letter from the superintendent. So she can give it to you. My phone number is on here. If you need any more additional information, and I thank you for your support.
Just one question, Mr. Galbuski. What benefits come along with setting up a safe school zone? Is it just a reduced speed limit down to like a 15 mile an hour? What ends up happening if it does get that designation?
The details are in the law. Okay, basically what would happen is, my understanding, in the school district, this would be the school district's decision, what they want, not what I want, okay? Because it's their students and the general public that's walking there. But yes, you could reduce the speed limit to 25 miles an hour. You can reduce it all the way down to 15, all right? I don't know what the magic number is, all right? I just don't have that answer, okay? But the biggest thing is there will be signage there. And what it does, for some reason or other, people don't recognize that they're going past the school area. So you're going to have a little more signage up. You can put a flashing light if you want to. Like I said, that's up to the school to work out what they want. But I think it's going to sensitize people. And I'm not sure if we've been talking about fines and stuff, whether you get caught going through a school zone and doubling the speed, what the fees are by the state. But I know over on Princetown Road by the school, there is a zone there. All right. Be honest with you, I'm surprised that it's not by every school, but I'm focusing on this particular section, Helderberg Avenue. So I would appreciate your support on it. Mrs. Markle has the detailed information.
Mr. Godlewski, thank you. And just to reinforce a couple of your points, one thing that has also changed there is when I was a kid who grew up off of Crestwood, that entrance was a dirt road, and you could only get your bicycle through there. There was no entry to the school from that side. So that clearly has created another entrance into the school property. I think your suggestion at least warrants a conversation between the supervisor and the superintendent and some research. So I think that bringing it to our attention is a great suggestion, And I'm sure the supervisor would be more than happy to follow up with the superintendent and see if there's a solution, everything from speed limit reduction to flashing yellow lights, whatever it takes to curb the problem.
Yeah, I know you don't have the handout. You're going to see in the superintendent's letter, she's very specific. And really, it's a follow-up letter to Senator Amador. So that'll clarify everything, but I thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming this evening, and for your comments.
Dan Garrow.
Good evening, Mr. Supervisor, members of the town board, members of the public. I wanted to speak on last week's event, the Rotterdam, New York Neighborhood Watches National Night Out. That is a tongue twister. I was one of many proud sponsors, and I was very excited to participate in this wonderful event. The event seemed to go off without a hitch and was well attended and well organized. Rotterdam's National Night Out provided a great service to our community and the families of the town of Rotterdam. The real stars of the event were the many volunteers and individuals who worked behind the scenes for many months on this project to make it a success. These distinguished individuals had an idea. They pounded the streets for weeks before the event to promote it by passing out flyers, and then they made their idea a reality. I want to recognize these individuals who have spearheaded this event this evening because they are a major contributing factor to the event's overall success and the growing organization of the Rotterdam, New York Neighborhood Watch. The members of the executive board include Jim Miller, Sean Flatt, Jeanette Miller, Jeannie Leonard, Jay Karp, and Georgina Fries. Ladies and gentlemen, let these individuals be an example of how we improve our neighborhoods and strengthen our community, the town of Rotterdam. I strongly encourage anyone who is interested in volunteering for our community to reach out to their president, Jim Miller, to discuss future opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garrow.
Mr.
Larry
Garrow, thank you.
Lamora.
Hello, everybody. I'm Larry Lamore, your Town of Rotterdam Highway Superintendent. I'm coming up to speak to you about an issue that I see we have for some bonding for helping with the Highway Department and anticipating for some equipment. I just want to let you know as the town board some concerns of the residents that I get calls on every day at the Highway Department. With a little explanation for this, the needs for these bond notes for the Highway Department for the equipment. In the past 3 years, the Highway Department has not purchased any heavy equipment whatsoever. I got in office, it's almost to be 2.5 years now. The prior administration was not able to budget it for the factor of purchasing equipment. But with that be said, the needs for this money is for some plow trucks we need. We have 12 plow routes in this town that we divide up in sections to try to adequately get the town roads cleaned up for people to be able to go to work, come home, children go to school, keep the roads safe and everything. Usually takes us 3 to 4 hours on a normal snowstorm of a 3 to 4 or 5 inch snowstorm. Anything more than that, it's more time consuming. So the minimum of 12 plow routes we have, which takes 12 trucks, and we have one spare. We have trucks that are 20 plus years old, but all of us live in the Northeast. I don't know how many people can afford to run a car that's 20 years old, because I'm sure the floor pans are rotted out and the rocker panels are gone, and such a matter. Now these trucks are carrying the material that ruins your cars. So the material that goes on the roads, well, that ruins our trucks. Our trucks, we got 93s and 94s on the road that we've been patching up, trying to keep them going. The cost of it is extensively getting too expensive for us to keep in the line of our budget means. So we need some plow trucks. And I hope you guys can understand that. I had all of you down, come to the Highway Department, look at some of the needs for our equipment. Another real major need we need is for a jet vac truck that cleans our catch basins out. I've been having several calls from the residents of the town. We have weeds, grass growing out of catch basins that we have not been able to clean out due to the fact we have a sewer jet truck that is 20-plus years old. We cannot buy the parts because the parts are discontinued due to the age of the truck. And for me to retrofit the truck with new equipment on it, we're talking extensive amount of money. We had some past rain this past week or so, that there were some heavy rains. Macon Boulevard was totally flooded out at the intersection going to Country Walk Road by the amount of 2.5 to 3 feet of water depth. I had to call in, due to this truck not being able to be serviceable, to clean out the drainage pipes that would drain this intersection out. It's inoperable, this truck, that we need a new one. We had to have manpower overnight with pumps, equipment there to get that intersection cleaned out. They ran all day and all night. Now that's costing us, the town, manpower, money, overtime, and plus the fact of the matter, we still don't have the truck, even though when we get done deflooding the streets. Lock Street pump stations. This truck is used to clean out the Lock Street pump stations, which we know that Rotterdam Junction, that station has to be kept clean to keep all the, the flooding away from that area. Walnut Avenue over here, we had some major catch basin repairs we had to do. It took my crew 4 times as long to repair these catch basins because they had to hand dig these things out with shovels. That's like working with a spoon and emptying your backyard pool out. They were using shovels instead of a truck that has a vac truck on it that can just go clean out the catch basin in a matter of minutes, and we can rebuild these catch basins. I'm hoping that when we vote tonight, that you guys really take in good consideration the real needs of this equipment. We're not looking for anything special. We just need the equipment needed to run the highway department. I was elected as an official to look out for the town of the roads and the needs for the residents here. And I'm begging you that, hopefully that this will pass tonight. I'm sticking up for the residents as well as the highway department, for the men. We need this equipment to keep our roads safe and in compliance with everything. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lamar. Appreciate your time. That's it? Okay. Seeing as we have no orders because I cannot commit an executive order. Can I? Yes. There is some executive order. We have to look at that. I'm just kidding. I hope we never have that problem. Let's move into the resolutions. Ms. Marco, would you start with 18216, please?
Sure. Appoint Christopher Amorosi of Rotterdam, New York, 12306, to the position of Building Safety Inspector for the Department of Public Works, full-time, provisional, with full employee benefits, with an annual salary of $41,180.85, effective August 10, 2016.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
Mr. Supervisor, I make the motion.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Christou. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Councilmember Miller Herrera. On the question?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor.
Yes, Mr. Valani.
I'm not exactly sure what gets issued into the public's packet that's been circulated, so I'm only going to refer to things that were discussed in an open meeting in the agenda session. The individual asking to be appointed in this particular position, Christopher Amorosi, did appear and did discuss his qualifications for this particular job in the Building Safety Inspector position. And during that agenda session, and if anybody has any interest in listening to it, by all means, please foil my recorder. And basically what was said, he has none. 0. He's never worked in building inspections. He's never taken any safety courses. He's never been a licensed plumber, electrician. He's never done any general contracting. He's never worked on a construction site other than for something himself. Certainly, all individuals have many skills. This individual is certainly no different. Taking a look at the career path that he has set up for himself, it made absolute perfect sense, and he was obviously very well qualified for that. I strongly recommend that this board find somebody in the construction fields. I understand finding somebody who has code enforcement experience and along with that actual blue-collar construction work experience may be hard to come by. But selecting somebody who, by his own admission, has no qualifications is a bad fit. Coincidentally, this was the same individual who had applied to be head of the department, of Public Works, with the same qualifications. None. I don't know why we're doing this. There are many people in the town of Rotterdam that would love to have this job that do have construction experience. It is no reflection on my personal beliefs about his past experience. It just simply doesn't apply to this particular job.
Mr. Supervisor, if I may?
Sure.
All right. First of all, I find it interesting that Mr. Villano really only quoted the dialogue of what he said, okay? And I would suggest that Mr. Villano Google the words, hire the attitude, train the skill. This is an entry-level training position that's going to require a lot of work for the person entering the job. And there's exams that he's going to have to take. It's a provisional position, okay? In that same dialogue of which Mr. Villano so eloquently ripped Mr. Amorosi to shreds, there was other discussion of his managerial experience, his leadership skills, his work ethic. What we didn't touch on is his contribution to this community as a father, as a resident, and as someone who has pretty much been vested in this community all of his life. So there was a lot more dialogue than the trial and execution of Chris Amorosi during the agenda meeting, okay? I feel, and I will stand by the appointment and feel that Mr. Amorosi has the right attitude, the right disposition, the right experience to learn the job. This is an entry-level training position, okay? And I'm 100% confident. And the fact that he interviewed for the DTBW coordinator position shows me ambition, okay? And who am I to turn away ambition? That's all I have to say.
All right, Mr. Supervisor, I also would like to say something on this. First of all, I know this gentleman is a really good guy. I know he's got work ethic, and I've dealt with him over the years when we were in Little League and everything. The one thing, there's a few different good points made. He doesn't have experience in this field, and really that is important. But I'm willing to give him a chance to learn, but he's going to have to be put on the ground running, and he's going to have somebody show him the ropes, because this is specific things. You have to actually know all this stuff, and you have to really know it well, because if you say or do something wrong, it's going to affect a homeowner, and there's going to be big problems. So you really need to know what you're doing. So you're taking on a task that's going to be a big task for the fact that you don't have the experience. I really wish you luck, and I would be willing to give you that opportunity, but you're going to have to be a quick learner. That's about it.
Okay. You know, along those lines, I've known Mr. Amorosi when I say casually, I mean very casually. I've probably run into him once or twice a year someplace, whether it's Price Chopper or whatever. So, you know, let's throw our cards on the table here this evening, in a sense. You know, his parents, I knew his parents for many, many years. They were two of the most hardworking people I've ever met. Mr. Amorosi has some skills that, how should I say this, that I look for. You know, you can train someone to be an electrician and do a task-oriented job. You can train someone to be a plumber and do a task-oriented job, and those are great jobs. They're phenomenal careers. The one thing that is very, very difficult to train someone on, though, is customer service skills, how they deal with the public, how they deal with people. That's something that you inherently have, or that you learn over a period of years. Let me just read something that Mr. Amorosi wrote himself to kind of culminate why it is that I believe that he is the right person for the position. He says, in addition to my professional experience, I'm a results-driven individual with 20-plus years of management and sales experience. I have an excellent background in customer service as well, which will be essential in building and maintaining community relationships within the town of Rotterdam. Communication and problem-solving skills are two of my greatest strengths. These coupled with my experience, I believe, make me an excellent candidate for this position. I mean, he couldn't, that's exactly how I feel, and as I went through his application and in conversing with him, in the past regarding this role, it is a job that he not only has the inherent customer service ability to handle, but more importantly, to go on with really what Mr. Larmore was saying, is that, going to someone's home and seeing what's going on there. Learning what the codes are is easy. Dealing with the public from the perspective of telling them that they're doing something wrong is a skill that you have to develop over years. I think he has that skill. So his training will be completed within shadowing and working with members of the Department of Public Works. More importantly, he'll be going out for training as well that is required of the position. And there will be a test that will be given for this position. So he may or may not be able to keep this position either. In other words, this is not one of these things where the board just has the ability to just make an appointment and it's done. So it's Mr. Amorosi is investing as much in the town of Rotterdam as we are investing in him. And I won't even go into the salary piece of it because that doesn't, at this point, I don't want to make those inferences about trying to find someone for his level of expertise. And what I mean by that is, again, his skills in relating and speaking to people, which is the most important skill that I think that you need in public service. You need to be able to listen. You need to be able to motivate people. But more importantly, in public service, you need to be someone who can commit to action and do things that are sometimes collaborative, work with people to get things accomplished. Because sometimes people do things that they don't think that they're doing something wrong until you tell them.
Okay.
So having said that, I'm supportive of Mr. Emerson. Mr. Wallin, you have something else you wanted to add?
Yes, just to finish on that, I think that this board has done a great job explaining all the experiences that Mr. Amorosi brings to the table. The only thing that I would like to note is there's only 3 words that I didn't hear in that explanation, and that's buildings, safety, and inspections. The 3 words in the job title I heard nothing about as a qualification. Certainly, there has to be someone in this town that has experience in buildings, safety, or inspections.
I have one more thing I'd like to mention too. I did hear, I'm not going to change my mind on how I'm voting, but the one thing I heard was very disturbing to me is we're going to vote on someone getting a job in the town according to he's a good person in the community. We're talking about jobs that there's a lot of people probably want, that you don't base it on that. You base it on if they have the ability to do the job. All that other stuff shouldn't matter, because that's almost like saying, hey, he's a buddy of mine or he's a family member. You can't base it on things like that. You have to base it on, can they do the job? Will they be able to do the job? Do they have the experience in the job? I'm willing to give them a shot, but when you're mentioning things like that, that's a wrong road to go down.
Please.
I haven't spoken. I don't know Mr. Amorosi. We met in the interview process. I think when you're hiring for an entry-level position that's subject to a civil service examination, really, what more do you have to go with than character? When somebody walks in and shows their character, when somebody's resume shows their character, when the people who live in the community with them are able to speak highly of their character, that's all you really have to go off for an entry-level position. People learn in entry-level positions. I don't know about the other members of the board, but I don't remember ever walking into an entry-level position where I knew how to do every detail of the job. That includes becoming a lawyer after 3 years of law school. I'm sure Mr. Villano would agree. We don't learn everything we need to know in law school. You learn them on the job. So do doctors. So we need to consider that when we're hiring people who are enthusiastic, show good values, show good judgment, and show good character.
With 41,000 plus benefits, I expect more.
Well, more people didn't apply either. I don't know how many people you sent the email to when it was posted on July 25th, but they didn't send in applications. maybe you should be doing more to encourage people that you believe are qualified to come forward and apply for these positions. This is the second DPW job where you came in and wanted more, wanted somebody else, wanted people who did not come forward seeking jobs with our town. $41,000 is not a lot in this day and age to live off of, let alone to live in our community and pay our taxes with. So you know what, I think we are doing great with Mr. Amorosi, and I don't want to speak negatively of Mr. Amorosi as if he was our only choice, but we didn't get 20 resumes to sort through and pick somebody who had been practicing as an electrical engineer for 10 years or 20 years or retired out of GE. We have somebody who's come forward who wants to learn. So I'm willing to give that opportunity, especially since he's going to be tested. If he doesn't pass the test, we'll be back and we'll be looking for new candidates. But Mr. Amorosi, thank you for coming forward. In your interview, I think you spoke very well for yourself, and I thought very highly of you after walking out of that interview. And I haven't met you before. I don't know more than that, and your references, in this case, anyone who's spoken about you has had wonderful things to say. So I hope you will take this seriously, you will learn on the job quickly, and you'll be ready for that test when it comes up.
Mr. Supervisor, one point of clarification. What I said was that Mr. Amorosi is vested in the community. You know, that has nothing to do with he's a friend of mine or he's a buddy of mine or some wrong road to take down. Complimenting in someone in compliment to what Ms. Miller-Herrera said is their character and their commitment to the community should matter, and it does matter, because if you've got the attitude, if you've got the heart to repeat, it's an entry-level training position, and I wish him the best of luck. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all for your comments. So we have a motion by Councilmember Christo and a second by Councilmember Miller-Herrera. Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller-Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Villano?
No.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 no.
Okay, Resolution 18216 passes. Resolution 18316. Resolution 18316, please.
Authorize the supervisor to enter into a contract agreements for payroll assistance part-time with no compensatory time and no employee benefits in an amount not to exceed $12,000 through 2016.
May I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Councilmember Miller-Herrera. May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, anyone on the question?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor. I'd like to have an amendment to this, that we not necessarily set a pay rate, but a maximum pay rate. Because right now we just have $12,000 until the end of the year. That could mean anything. So I'd like to ask for an amendment to that.
On your motion, or your motion for amendment, could I just say this, that when you do that, you put me in a position where it would be more difficult for me to negotiate a lower rate. So if we go in there with an amount, an hourly rate not to exceed, pick a number, $30 an hour, $45 an hour, pick a number, people are going to anticipate that dollar amount. And we're looking not just for skill set, but I'm also looking for maybe 1 or 2 people. If one doesn't work out, we can bring someone else in. And the individuals that we were bringing in for this position have to know Munis software, have to know how to process payroll. So it's not a situation where we're just bringing someone in to fill a position for a long term, Mr. Lamar. It's truly a short-term fix here for the department upstairs, without going into a lot of details, because they would violate a lot of other federal laws and so on. So, you know, we need some help upstairs. So please, if we could, you know, move along with that. Does someone want to second his motion, Mr. Larimer's motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Larimore and a second by Councilmember Villano to establish a maximum hourly rate for resolution 183.16. Now, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll on the amendment, please?
Okay. To amend, Mr. Christo?
No.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller-Herrera?
No.
Mr. Villano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
No.
3 noes, 2 yeses, doesn't
Okay.
pass.
Thank you. And again, I understand what you're saying, Rick. I don't want you to Mr. Larimer. I really would rather use first names here, but yeah, but again, I think that from a negotiating perspective, it's better for us to not have the maximum rate there. But I understand your.
Well, I
do.
don't know why they would have to necessarily know.
Public
It's
record. It's
public
because it's
record.
public. It's a matter of public record. You've told them.
All right.
You see what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's the. Okay. So again, we have a motion by Councilmember Miller Herrera and a second by Councilmember Christou on 183.16. Ms. Marco, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
No.
Mr. Thomasson?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 no.
Okay. Let me just make a note here. Thank you. Resolution 183.16 passes. Ms. Marco, would you please read 184.16?
Call for public hearing to be held on Wednesday, September 14th, 2016 at 7 p.m. at the John F. Kirby Government Center, Town Hall, 1100 Sunrise Boulevard, Rotterdam, New York, 12306, upon adoption of a proposed local law of the year 2016 for the following purpose: to amend Chapter 266, Section 52 of the Code of Town of Rotterdam entitled Vehicles and Traffic, Schedule 12, no parking at any time, as follows. Include Floral Avenue, west entire length, Mild Standish Road to the dead end in the schedule.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I move.
Motion by Councilmember Christou. May I have a second, please?
I'll second it.
Second by Councilmember Larimore. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomasson?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, thank you. Resolution 184.16 passes. Resolution 185.16.
Call for public hearing to be held on Wednesday, September 14th, 2016 at 7 p.m. at the John F. Kirby Government Center, Town Hall, 1100 Sunrise Boulevard, Rotterdam, New York, 12306 for the following purpose. Request by Shannon Lamora, contract vendee, to reopen an existing restaurant and bar on a 0.69 acre parcel of property located in the Aquifer Overlay Area District. This property tax map is number 20.-2-11, is located at 989 River Road, Rotterdam, New York, 12306.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Councilmember Christou. Is there a second, please?
I'll second it.
Okay, second by Councilmember Valano. Anyone on the question?
Yes, Mr.
Go
Supervisor.
ahead, Mr. Valano.
I just want to make sure, from what I'm hearing, the person that wants to purchase this has great ideas, but I know for the last couple of years, the community around there has suffered through a lot of bad things going on there, and we just want to make sure that that does not be a continuing process that's going on, you know, with partying all night and raising hell and all the bikes going around and ripping and roaring and everything. The community of Rotterdam does not need that. I've been assured that that's not going to be the case, and I hope so, because I was assured that the last owner was the same way, was going to do the same positive things, and it didn't turn out that way. We had both legally and illegally things going on there that shouldn't have happened. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm giving the benefit of doubt, and I'm hoping for the best, and we got to call for a public hearing so everybody can speak their piece.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. And we have a motion by Councilmember Christou, a second by Councilmember Valano. Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomasson?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, and I'll make my comment. Just give me one moment, please, if I could. Okay, 186.16, please.
Call for bids to be opened on Thursday, September 1st, 2016 at 10:30 a.m. for the pumping and transporting of leachate from the Town of Rotterdam landfill.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Councilmember Valano. May I have a second, please?
I'll second it.
Second by Councilmember Larimore. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomasson?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, Resolution 186.16 passes. Resolution 187.16.
Authorize the supervisor to enter into an agreement with the Chazen Companies located at 547 River Street, Troy, New York, 12180 for professional services for Rotterdam Schenectady water interconnection in the amount not to exceed $21,700.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Councilmember Valano. May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Councilmember Christou. Anyone on the question? On the question, I would just like to mention a few things that we're doing here this year and into next year. What interconnections are, where the town, for example, the town of Rotterdam and the city of Schenectady, or the town of Rotterdam and the town of Gilliland will put in valves connecting our water systems, so that if something happens to the water system in Schenectady, for example, from the perspective that the pumps are down or something happens, we can feed water to the city and to the tanks there, so they'll have water. The same for us. That puts us in a good position as well if something happens to our pumps and infrastructure. If there's a main line down somewhere in the town, we can't get the water to our tanks, we'll be able to do that with the city connection. We're working on the same with the town of Gilliland as well, and what would happen there is a future contract, once these interconnections are accomplished, during the time as well, we're already talking to them anyway, but we'll have some kind of a fee structure there. They'll pay us, we'll pay them if we have to turn them on. More importantly, the issue Mr. Christou is just whispering to me is the ultimate word that everyone likes to hear, which is redundancy. You need redundancy in the water because that protects everybody, regardless of where you live. The one thing that none of us can do without is water. So I appreciate the board moving this resolution this evening. Anyone else on the question? So, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Tomaso?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 187-16 passes. Resolution 188-16.
Authorize the town comptroller to establish capital project fund number HO 101-2016 for the purpose of establishing a project fund for the 2016 wastewater treatment plant upgrades.
May I have a motion, please?
Mr. Supervisor, I make the motion.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Christou. May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Miller Herrera. On the question?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor.
Go ahead, Mr. Valano.
At the last board meeting, we ended up tabling these resolutions, the purpose of which was to do two things. One, I wanted it paired up with the highway bonding project. Two, I also wanted to have an opportunity to have discussions about how we were going to pay for these bonds. Specifics, not general, broad paint strokes. I had two meetings prior to a trip that I had with the supervisor. During neither of those meetings was I provided any particular specifics, though I attended them and we ended up talking for several hours, none of it which resulted in any kind of agreement how to afford this spending. Then I had another meeting that was going to be scheduled for Friday, well in advance of this meeting tonight. Initially the goal was to wrap up the discussions that we had during the first two meetings. During that meeting we ended up canceling it because there was not any specific information for me at that. The meeting was then set up for Monday, so the night before this one, to have discussions, and between my discussions with the supervisor and the deputy supervisor, we could not come to terms with an express way to pay for these bondings. I keep getting assured that it will come. I keep getting assured that Mr. Lamore and my concepts from our prior budgets will be entertained and merged into it to help find ways to pay for this. I am uncomfortable doing so because once I end up passing judgment on this bond tonight, basically my part on the bonding is over. Based upon all the foregoing, the fact that I have tried diligently over the last month to find a way to pay for these particular expenses, and more or less I feel like my efforts have fallen on deaf ears, I plan on voting no across the board.
I'm honestly at this point extremely disturbed. You're calling me a liar, which upsets me. I'm going to be straight with you. You asked me, here's your own notes right here. You asked me for several things, and
Yep.
we discussed them last night, and we discussed them before. You want to know what the retirement exposure is of the CSEA or the police?
And you couldn't tell me.
Because we can't, and you should know that. You've been on the board for 2 years. October, November, we'll know that. We don't know that now. Let's just, let me do the
Okay.
talking now, if you don't mind.
Sure,
Okay.
so that's one.
Because you called me a
couldn't give it to
liar.
Yeah.
Okay. Third, the bonding for the sewer plant. You took out the budget last night and you said, oh, yes, we have a bond amount there that is 126,000, 29,000. That bond is paid off this year. So the money is already in the sewer budget for this bond. The money is there.
Not all of it.
What will the difference be, $5,000 or $10,000? I mean, let's be.
$50,000.
It's not 50,000. Are you serious? This is absolutely insane. I must say, I'm at a point where again you're completely misinforming the public.
Well, we did say that we
It is.
wanted...
Let me finish, if you don't mind. I have the floor, and I'm going to keep the floor until I'm done. Then the two of you may say what you want, because what you're doing is completely misinforming the public. You're lying, and honestly, I've had it. We have serious issues with that sewer plant. And forgive me, but all these pieces of paper are white. And I'm trying to remember the debt schedule off the top of my head. Just trying to apologize to the public for that. But I have it in here. Here it is. Of course, mine's in color, so I can find it. I should have taken it out before. A 20-year amortization. Now, first of all, we're talking about borrowing or putting out a bond. We've done this for 4 or 5 meetings now, discussing it. And frankly, what the two of you are doing is putting the town, and particularly those people, which, from a, I guess I want to say a personal perspective, I'm in the sewer district. It affects me. And I'm paying tax to the sewer for a sewer that I have. If that sewer plant breaks down, we have 2 employees here that work in the sewer plant, Mr. Shafarzik and Mr. Aldi, and I'm not going to call them up and have them take you back on the tour of the plant, because the first time you were there was back in March or April. Carl, don't worry about it right now, because they're probably going to vote no, so let me say my piece on this, because I'm honestly, I've had it. So, we're talking about putting out a bond, or putting out a note for $2.1 million. We probably will not spend $2.1 million. And I say probably because if something else breaks down there that I don't know about, that the engineers don't know about, that Carl or Alan don't know about, that being said, if a main line breaks down somewhere, we don't know that. So let me just put that out there. We have money that is in reserves. We have to keep money in reserves, because if something does happen, we have the funds to appropriate. Again, I spoke earlier, we're going to create project funds for the future, capital project funds. So a 20-year note will cost, if we borrow $2.1 million, the first year would be 100. So the rough numbers are between 144 to, depending on the year, to 147,000. The difference is $20,000, no matter how you cut it. 15,000, 20,000. Believe me, we can find that in the sewer lines. We're not going to be destitute. So every attempt that you have here is to try to make or portray that you're saving the taxpayers' money, when in fact what you're doing is you're pushing off work that has to be done, that the DEC is monitoring us, telling us has to be accomplished. The DEC wants to know every step of the way what we're doing. And frankly, they ask our Department of Public Works on a monthly basis, where are you? They're flabbergasted. Because these other municipalities that have done nothing are now, things are happening in their municipalities. Things are breaking down, and it's costing them a lot more money than $2.1 million. So I'm not finished. When I'm finished, I'll let you have the floor. So this evening, we're going to be voting to push one resolution. Hopefully, we'll get 5 votes on that, because it's a thing. The bar screen has to be repaired. We have funds to be able to do that in the budget, but we have to do over $2 million worth of improvements there, which includes the replacement of the bar screen. By voting this down tonight, you're going to push this work to September. Frankly, the numbers could change by then. In other words, if something else breaks down, or the engineering work can't be committed to over the winter, I mean, when are we going to get these projects started? You've pushed this off already for 3-4 months. We could have already have had a lot of this accomplished. And at the end of the day, when we do that sewer budget, the money is there to do it. So what you're portraying to the public is absolutely false, absolutely 100% false. Then on top of that, when we talk about the bonding for the highway department, we talked about, well, how could we do that? Mr. Lamore told you that the equipment's over 20 years old. we can go to a 15-year payment schedule for that equipment and have that number be much more manageable for the highway fund, taking into account the tax cap, et cetera. And you're telling me you'd rather go 5 years and spend $163,000, we're talking about $50,000 a year, $48,000 a year, and stretching that out a little bit further. Honestly, when it comes to managing the finances of the town, you are somewhat, and I hate to use the word, but schizophrenic. It seems like you want it both ways. You cannot have it both ways. You want to portray that you're saving and you're not. And honestly, you're making it seem as if we wasted our time together. I thought we had substantive discussions, but here tonight you're calling me a liar.
I feel like I wasted my time.
Well, you know what? I'm going to give you one. I'm going to promise you one thing. You won't waste your time anymore with me. I promise you that.
Can I speak?
Please do.
now? What I'd like to mention, there was never a problem with the wastewater treatment plant. We just said that because of the fact that Larry Lamore hadn't gotten any equipment for many years, and then when we went there and checked it out, and a lot of equipment's bad, we said, we want to have the wastewater treatment bond and the highway department bond done at the same time because we want to make sure it happens. And that is where we're asking for, showing us where we're going to get the money to pay for is the highway department. We already know that one bond's coming off for the water treatment, so it's not going to be that big of a kick on that one. But we want to do them both, and we want to make sure that we can afford both of them. And that's where it came to. So, I mean,
Then you should have had discussions with Mr. Lamora. Hey, do you have the $50,000 in your budget? He's going to probably tell you, I have most of it, number one. Number two, Mr. Villano had asked me for the numbers of the unreserved fund balances at December 31, 2015. I provided it to everybody this evening. That's on your checklist, though. We can check that off? Great,
Yes.
Great, fantastic. Fantastic. So that wasn't a waste of your time. So the highway fund has over $750,000 in reserves, okay? So when it comes to even that payment, if we're somewhere where it's a little tight, we're going to create an equipment capital projects fund so that he and other people in this town who run our departments do not have to rely on the political machinations of this board to get things done that matter for the public. I am honestly, I've served on this board in the past. I had similar problems, frankly, with board members who want to make statements and then come up and call me a liar. I'm tired of it. I will not put up with it, and I'm going to call you all out on it from now on, regardless of who it is. I don't care what the political parties are. There's one of the reasons why I went to the Independence Party. I've had it. This major party stuff is really, the public, you really need to look very hard at the people that you're putting on the boards here to make sure that the people that you are putting on the board are looking out for you. Mr. Lamora came up here and spoke this evening very, very passionately about what he needs. Mr. Shafarzik took us through a plant tour, and it was like watching a bunch of bobbleheads in the back of somebody's car, going, yeah, that's great. So if you know the problems there, you see the equipment, you know that the buildings are old, how is it that you could sit here and make a claim that our time was wasted? You would never step foot on that property at that sewer plant for 2 years. Either of you served on this board until I called a public meeting there.
I'm talking about the 3 meetings that we had here.
Regardless, you have an absolute obligation for every resolution that you vote on, which you claim to portray here. And more importantly, you vote on these resolutions, and you didn't go visit these folks. I know for a fact that you never stepped foot in the highway department until the day of, or the day before the election last year. That's a fact. That's a fact. Did you ever look at the equipment? Did you look at the building? Did you go in the men's room? Did you see what kind of conditions we have here? The parks themselves, picnic tables that are falling apart. Oh, we have a lot to do in the town. We're not destitute. What we need is a vision. We have people on this board who are looking to get things done. For the most part, I would love to have us all vote in unison, whether we all vote no on something or all vote yes on something. Because when it comes right down to it, we're here to do your work. And when residents come here who want to start a business or do something here, you wonder, you have to ask yourself, gee, look at this board. The supervisor is getting all worked up. He seems to be a little passionate about what he's doing here. That's because I've lived here for a long time. As I get older, I keep seeing, again, the lost opportunities that we've had in our town, and I'm tired of it. I'm tired of always having our town be pushed back. We can really start moving forward here. We have a lot to do in a short period of time. Again, we're not destitute. We have an ability to get these projects started. We have an ability to find ways to work together with different departments to cross-utilize people, cross-utilize functions. We've started to do that. Larry and the Highway Department has been doing work at our parks. Again, you know, we're working together with Jim Long, the Department of Public Works. Things are coming together here. You know, we are working together. We talk to each other. We get things done. What else can we, what else do you need? What else do you need?
Well, I would just like to say something that I got just thrown a good one, got ripped, and you have no idea how I'm even voting, and you're ripping me without even knowing what I'm thinking.
You want, Rick, so if that's the case, I apologize. I'll apologize to you directly. But at the same time, we have to be put in a position here where I have to, you know, where people are calling me a liar, and I'm not going to put up with it. And I don't think you would either.
On a 15-year bond, it is a $52,000 difference.
It's not a 15-year bond. We're going for a 20-year bond. Do the numbers again.
Mr. Supervisor, if I may, I want to say a few words, and I want to begin by saying two words, since we're on this two-word concept tonight. And the two words that I want to use are catastrophic failure. Carl, would you say those are two good words to start with?
Oh, absolutely.
Catastrophic failure, okay? We're very close to that, and I don't want to wait around, okay? I don't want anybody in this community feeling that this board has been neglectful, okay? Time is of the essence. Time is of the essence with this water sewer treatment plant, and time is of the essence with the highway superintendent. I think the highway superintendent has been very prudent of what he needs, and so has Mr. Shafarsik and his department, okay? And I too am equally insulted by this dispensation of half-truths, half-facts, half-statistics in order to skew the perception towards your opinion, Mr. Villano, okay? I know for a fact that in your dialogue with the supervisor that a good chunk of that money that you were looking for was agreed upon by both parties, and even got a nod of agreement from myself when we spoke. So you make it sound like there was absolutely zero productivity, and that is grossly unfair, okay?
It's less than half.
Stop, okay? The bottom line is you projected to this public that zero got done. Slightly less than half. I think it's more than half, but it depends. But either way, still half of the money was found in a 10-minute conversation, okay? Okay, but again, you failed to mention that part. You just came back and said it was a waste of your time, okay? All right? I received updates by the supervisor. He actually was quite excited that there was dialogue going on, because every time you asked to meet with him, he asked me if I was available. Unfortunately, I wasn't. But I always followed up and said, hey, how'd you make out with Joe? He says, Evan, pretty good. We're making some progress. We're communicating, okay? And I think that the attempt of this body has been for the dialogue to be nothing but collaborative and productive, not only for this board, but for this community. There is not one selfish interest in what we're doing here. We're all conscious of the tax cap. We're all conscious of our fiscal responsibility. Everybody on this board is fiscally conservative, okay? But this continuous vilification, politicalization, and holding the town hostage to put yourself in some sort of light, which I still haven't been able to figure out, it's got to stop. It's got to stop for the good of this community, not because of personal feelings, okay? I got skin thicker than a catcher's mitt. But this community needs this collaboration. This community needs us to act. This community needs to provide the tools for Mr. Lamora and for Mr. Safarzik to run their departments. End of story. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, Resolution 18816, we have a motion by Councilmember Christo, seconded by Councilmember Miller Herrera. Ms. Marco, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Villano?
No.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 no.
Thank you, Rick. Resolution 188-16 passes. Resolution 189-16.
Authorize issuance of bond anticipation note to fund Town of Rotterdam wastewater treatment plant improvements through bonding resolution pursuant to the local finance law to finance said purpose and delegating the power to issue bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the sale of such bonds to the town supervisor.
May I have a motion, please?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Councilmember Christou. May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Miller Herrera. Anyone on the question?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor.
Go ahead, Mr. Longman.
I want to let you know why I'm voting positively towards these is because when we held it up last month, we said the reason why we wanted to hold it up because we wanted to make sure that the highway department and the water treatment plant got done at the same time. You guys put it on the agenda, so you were men of your word. So I feel that I should follow through with what I said.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
And the reason I'm still voting no is I wanted that plus have a plan to how we were going to pay for it in advance. And since that didn't happen, I'm still going to be voting no.
Okay, again, I'll just reiterate for the public, if you're watching later, that we do have the funds in the budget for the wastewater treatment plant upgrades. There is a bond that is being paid off this year. We will just re-up that bond and take care of this, these improvements that need to be made. When it comes to the other comments that were made regarding the highway department, and really when you look at the highway fund and the general fund, and if you want to do a combined tax rate, et cetera, you want to look at where you can find money between the funds and come up with some balance, if you will, to the expenses and revenues, and make sure that we can find the funds that are necessary. One of the things that we spoke about was, well, what if we just keep, for example, a police officer position open? That one item would exceed the amount of money that would pay for the bond for the highway department by probably $40,000. So it's not a revenue neutral item. It's basically we're in the positive territory by tens of thousands of dollars. So, with that said, we have a motion by Councilmember Christou. Sure, go ahead.
I got one more thing with the highway department. I know we were fighting to make sure that the highway department got their bond, and I was a little disappointed when we're trying to bond for the highway department, and then I hear that they hired 4 more people. To me, you don't ask for bonds if you're going to hire people. I don't think that's you're putting the town in debt in 2 different directions. I really don't think that's a fair thing to do, but whatever,
Well, okay. We have a motion by Councilmember Christou, second by Councilmember Miller Herrera for Resolution 189-16. Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Villano?
No.
Mr. Thomasson?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 no.
Okay, thank you. Resolution 189-16 passes. Resolution 190-16.
Authorize the town controller to establish capital project fund number H0102-2016 for the purpose of establishing a project fund for the 2016 highway equipment.
May I have a motion, please?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Councilmember Christou. May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Miller Herrera. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Villano?
No.
Mr. Thomasson?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 no.
Okay, Resolution 190-16 passes. Resolution 191-16.
Authorize the issuance of bond anticipation note to fund highway department equipment purchase through bonding resolution pursuant to the local finance law to finance said purpose and delegating the powers to issue bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the sale of such bonds to the town supervisor.
May I have a motion, please?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Councilmember Christou. Second, please.
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Miller Herrera. May I have anyone on the question? Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Villano?
No.
Mr. Thomasson?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 no.
Okay, Resolution 191-16 passes. Resolution 192-16.
Amend Resolution Number 19.16, adopted on January 1st, 2016, to authorize the utilization of specific engineering firms to act as town designated engineers, TDEs, to include Delaware Engineering DPC, 28 Madison Avenue Extension, Albany, New York, 12203.
May I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Councilmember Valano. May I have a second, please?
I'll second it.
Second by Councilmember Larmore. On the question, we're adding Delaware Engineering. They do a tremendous amount of infrastructure work. Most importantly, this resolution really directly involves the interconnection that we're working on with the town of Giltland. The town of Giltland utilizes Delaware Engineering for water and other infrastructure needs, so that it'll help us keep our costs down as well if we use the same engineering firm on that particular project. So that's why one of the reasons why we're adding them to the list. We have a motion by Councilmember Valano, a second by Councilmember Larmore. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomaso?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, Resolution 192-16 passes. Resolution 193-16.
The Town Board of the Town of Rotterdam hereby authorizes the appropriation of parkland fees in an amount not to exceed $11,234 and hereby modifies the general fund balance budget by increasing estimated revenues A510 and the revenue account entitled Parkland Fees A2001.200100 by $11,234 and increasing appropriations A960 in the subsidiary account entitled Park Improvements A7110.4153 by $11,234 for replacing, repairing fencing at Memorial Park.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Councilmember Valano. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Councilmember Miller Herrera. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, Resolution 193-16 passes. Resolution 194-16.
The Town Board of the Town of Rotterdam hereby authorizes the appropriation of parkland fees in an amount not to exceed $6,737.50 and hereby modifies the general fund budget by increasing estimated revenues A510 and the revenue account entitled Parkland Fees A2001.200100 by $6,737.50 and increasing appropriations A960 and the subsidiary account entitled Parks Improvements A7110.4153 by $6,737.50 for removal of trees in Carmen, Eunice Esposito, Juraca, and Memorial Parks.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Councilmember Christou. Is there a second, please?
I'll second it.
Okay, second by Councilmember Larmore. Anyone on the question? Just on the question, this is the firm that we utilize, that it was basically our low bidder for the tree removal services that we commit to in the town. So we had a tremendous amount of work that needed to be accomplished in our parks, and because they were already on our bid list, if you will, we utilize them here because they have been doing work for the Highway Department, Department of Public Works, etc. So we have a motion by Councilmember Christou, a second by Councilmember Larmore. Anyone else? Okay, Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, thank you. Resolution 194-16 passes. Resolution 195-16.
The Town Board of the Town of Rotterdam hereby authorizes the appropriation of parkland fees in an amount not to exceed $1,750 and hereby modifies the general fund budget by increasing estimated revenues A510 and the revenue account entitled Parkland Fees A2001.200100 by $1,750 and increasing appropriations A960 and the subsidiary account entitled Parks Improvements A7110.4153 by $1,750 for electrical service for the scoreboard in Memorial Park.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Councilmember Valano. May I have a second, please?
I'll second it.
Second by Councilmember Larmore. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, Resolution 195-16 passes. Resolution 196-16.
Award bid open on Thursday, July 28, 2016 for the Rotterdam wastewater treatment plant mechanical bar screen replacement to Coster Associates Incorporated, 3101 Seneca Turnpike, Canastota, New York, 13032.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Councilmember Christou. Is there a second, please?
I'll second it.
Second by Councilmember Larmore. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
I want to explain my vote. Although I oppose the bonding at this point, since that there is money sitting aside in an account to pay for it, I vote yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, Resolution 196-16 passes. Resolution 197-16.
A resolution authorizing an agreement between the town board and the highway superintendent to establish a paving plan for 2016 and allow payment for the town of Rotterdam road paving 2016 fiscal year in an amount not to exceed $283,535.45.
May I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Councilmember Valano. May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Councilmember Christo.
Miller
Herrera. She beat you out? Okay, I thought so, but I wanted to give you deference because you're sitting to my right. Okay. So we have a motion by Councilmember Valano, a second by Councilmember Miller Herrera. Anyone on the question?
Yes, Mr.
Go ahead,
Supervisor.
Mr. Lamar.
I just want to check, I know, as far as I know, we don't have money in the budget for paving. So is this the CHIPS money? Is that all this is?
It's all the CHIPS money and additional money that came from the state of New York.
Okay.
So that's why it's more than it's been in the past by about, what, 50,000?
Yeah, I remember the state was giving us some extra money, yep. All right, I just wanted to check.
Yes, and just for further clarification as well, Mr. Lamar, our highway superintendent, and members of his department, I think it was Mr. Dixon, was he the only one that went out, or were there others that went out?
Yes, there were a few others.
Besides yourself?
Mainly, yes,
Mainly he did the majority of the
road
work.
management plan.
So what we did was we really put together a spreadsheet, basically a report to show and score the roads, the ones that were, from basically, I'll say, use a number 1 to 5, and what needed to be accomplished. And so Mr. Lamora, and working with his supervisors and his department, came up with the paving schedule here. Hopefully the work will begin soon, and we'll start to see some paving around town. My hope is that next year we'll get more than this through CHIPS, and we'll see what we can do, through the budget process this year to allocate some additional money if possible for more paving next year. So thank you very much.
I would certainly hope so, because historically, at least in the last 3 or 4 budgets, there's been literally no additional money set aside for paving beyond what the state gives us. We're not funding this portion of our infrastructure at all.
Okay, Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 197-16 passes. 198-16.
Town Board of the Town of Rotterdam establishes the ratio of homestead and non-homestead base proportions pursuant to Article 19 of the Real Property Tax Law of the State of New York.
May I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Councilmember Christo. May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Miller Herrera. Anyone on the question?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor.
Go ahead, Mr. Lamar.
I just want to make mention that in order for us, it's kind of a catch-22. If you raise the business, or you lower the business tax, it raises the homeowner's tax a little bit. But we need to find a way to do it so it doesn't affect either of them too much, but we need to get our business tax down a little bit more, because that's the way we're going to attract businesses. If we tax the businesses to death, I know we don't want to hurt the homeowners, but at the same time, we're not going to get businesses in if we don't do that. And of course, what we are doing, which is the infrastructure. But the taxes got to get somehow lowered for the businesses too. Otherwise, it's going to be hard to draw them in.
Considering that there's only a handful of townships in the state of New York that does this, we should look at what the value of actually negating this program is. We did have an opportunity to talk to the assessor prior to voting on this tonight. I asked the assessor really 2 kind of pointed questions. Under the current dynamic, how much heavier is businesses taxed as opposed to residences? And it's approximately 2 to 1. A $100,000 business property is taxed the same as a $200,000 house approximately. And I asked if we abolished this program and we started taxing all properties equally, what would be the cost benefit? What would be the additional cost that our homeowners would end up experiencing on their houses? And the answer that I got was, I don't know, we'll look into it next year. Well, it's something that, I would want to know about now, and they can't say that. I haven't asked about it every year because this is the third time this issue's come up, and it's the third time I've asked exactly the same question. And the answer is, I don't know. I think it's something that should at least be explored going forward, but based upon the amount of information that I have at this time, I plan on abstaining.
First of all, the assessor said that he was going to call the Office of Real Property Services and speak to them. So again, you're not accurate in your portrayal of what occurred during the agenda meeting. That he is going to speak with the Office of Real Property Services and ascertain, as we discussed, the potential of running some kind of models to see what would happen and what the effects would be.
But
So
we're voting on this tonight.
Right, because we have to. So unless you have some magical way of changing the tax rates and doing something tonight, we can't do it. You know, in other words, we have to move this forward in order for us to keep with the budget, the schedule, budget process. We have to have, in order to change everything here, first of all, the infrastructure needs to be improved. We need sewers out in the western part of town. All these things that we discussed this evening, so you're giving half the story, and that's okay. But I believe that he will come back to us with some information. It may take some time. It's August, people are on vacation. But perhaps sometime in September during the budget process, hopefully prior to our preliminary budget being filed, we'll have some kind of data. But I understand what you're saying, but again, it's not what you portrayed was not accurate to the discussion that was had during the agenda meeting.
You weren't here the last 2 years, is that correct, Mr. Supervisor?
No, but I was here before, and I'm familiar with the process.
Okay, and you are aware, or at least I'm sure that you believe me, that I ask every year exactly what the cost would be to abolish this program. That I think unfairly, places additional burden on businesses. And I realize, of all people, being a Shelmont side resident, it would affect, me and my fellow residents the hardest.
I don't doubt that you asked for that information. That's not what I said.
This is the third time it's come up, and, I hope it comes about this year.
Okay. So where were we? We have a motion by Councilmember Christou, a second by Councilmember Miller Herrera. Anyone else on the question? Ms. Markle, please call the roll.
Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Lomore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
No.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 no.
Resolution 198-16 passes. Resolution 199-16.
Authorize the BB Law Firm to enter into a stipulation of settlement on behalf of the Town of Rotterdam in the matter of the application of Petra Plumbing and Heating Incorporated versus Town of Rotterdam, ETAL, index numbers 2014-1638, 2015-1828, and 2016-1718, Article 7, Real Property Tax Certiorari proceedings for the tax years 2014, 15, and 16.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Councilmember Christou. May I have a second, please?
I'll second it.
Second by Councilmember Valano. Anyone on the question? On the question, I would just like to say this particular matter has to do with the Draper School and the upcoming Draper Lofts project. We have to hopefully affirmatively pass this resolution this evening. Then title will pass completely on that property. Our tax refund, if you will, is approximately $13,000, a little more than $13,000 on the town side. I'm not sure what it is on the school's behalf or the county's behalf at this point. However, we're going to realize a lot more than what we're paying out tonight in future fees and revenues here from the perspective of tax. When I say fees, the building inspection fees and parkland funds and the like. So there's a real strong, it's a real strong project, and I for one am extremely happy that this is moving forward. So, anyone else on the question? Okay, Ms. Markle, please call the roll.
Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 199-16 passes. Resolution 200-16.
Authorize the supervisor or his designee to enter into a settlement agreement with Town of Rotterdam employee A.
May I have a motion, please?
I'll make the motion.
Whoa.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Let's try that again.
Give it to Mr. Valano.
Mr. Valano, you want to make a motion?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Valano made the motion. May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Councilmember Christou. Anyone on the question? Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomasson?
Yes.
5 yes.
Resolution 216 passes. Resolution,
Nation from Jack D. Fitch as patrolman with the Rotterdam Police Department effective August 1st, 2016.
okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Councilmember Valano, may I have a second, please?
I'll second it.
Second by Councilmember Larmore. Anyone on the question? Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomasson?
Yes.
5 yes.
Resolution 20116 passes. Resolution 20216,
Authorize gasoline expenditures from April 1st, 2016 through and including June 30th, 2016 to be transferred into various accounts.
may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Councilmember Christou, is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Valano. Anyone on the question? Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomasson?
Yes.
5 yes.
Resolution 20216 passes. Resolution 20316,
Accept town clerk's report for the month of July 2016.
okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Councilmember Larmore, may I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Christou. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomasson?
Yes.
5 yes.
Resolution 20316 passes. Resolution 20416,
Authorize budget transfers by the town comptroller to various accounts for 2016.
may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Councilmember Christou, may I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Councilmember Miller Herrera. Anyone on the question?
Yes, Mr.
Go
Supervisor.
ahead, Mr. Lawler. Turn to that page when you're,
I have a problem with
where are we?
the one transfer to Deputy Superintendent of Highway. I thought we had done away with that position, and now we're bringing that back. And I really kind of feel put back with the fact that we're hiring these people when at the same time we're wanting to bond, you know, all the money we're bonding for equipment. You know, maybe next year when we already get used to the bond, but to do that, to me, isn't right. You don't ask for one thing and then you're doing another thing at the same time that's complete opposite. I mean, just my feelings on it.
You know, I following up on that, I think that there are very many capable people that are heavy machine equipment operators and also already helping Larry down there. I don't want to take on any additional expense, especially considering that we're taking the money out of the SPIM account, which is the, it's basically the contingency money. It's the leftover money that's the wild card, can go basically wherever it needs to. You know, that's an account that we should leave for a rainy day. And an additional hire certainly shouldn't be one. Especially considering that I believe that this is an individual who's already retired and being brought back. You know, I can't stand double dipping. And based upon the foregoing, I hereby make a motion to remove the $13,266 out of the SPIM account and remove the transfer into the Deputy Superintendent of Highway line.
No, this position is within the A fund, so we you know, regardless, you know, can be done. There's a motion on the floor. Yes, there's a motion on the floor to remove the lines that say from Fund A1990-4172, SPIM contingent account of $13,266.40, transferring that to line A5010-130018, Deputy Superintendent of Highway, for $13,266.40. Is there a second?
I second it.
Okay, there's a second by Councilmember Larmore, so we have a motion by Councilmember Valano and a second by Councilmember Larmore.
Mr. Supervisor, a couple of things. First of all, Larry, this is a position that is not include benefits or anything, correct?
None.
Okay. Having said that, I'd like to give Mr. Lamora, the highway superintendent, 2 minutes on that microphone to explain why he needs that position. I think it's only fair.
I've asked this gentleman to come back to give the highway department a hand. We have some known issues that, that left with the people that left the department. We had several people that have retired, which you, Mr. Lamore, I wish you would have asked me why you're telling the people that we're hiring people. I'm only replacing people that have retired from their positions. It has dropped our workforce down. I'm just only trying to create and bring back the workforce that is needed. My workforce has dropped down from when I originally started. I'm not even came back to that top level again. I'm just trying to maintain what is needed for the highway department. But with that being said, Mr. Fowler has been with the highway department through 1, 2, 3. I'm the 4th highway superintendent that he's served under. With that being said, he's had the knowledge of the background of our drainage systems, or even helping with the water department, the snow plowing, all the infrastructure in this town. When I came into this position, yes, I had qualifications with excavating equipment, running water mains and all that, but I didn't install them in this town. And there's issues that came up, such as the Megan Boulevard drainage problem we had. I had Mr. Mahar there, I had an engineer there. Mr. Fowler, I asked to come in last week. He came over there with me. I could not get no answers in getting this problem fixed. He came in one day, showed me what the problem was, explained me all the infrastructure that was put in place while he was serving under the payroll of the town of Rotterdam as working for the highway department. He had that problem fixed for me within 6 hours, which I've worked several hours trying to get it figured out with engineers and people that are working here, but they did not have the background knowledge. He has background knowledge in several parts of that department with working through, he stayed there, like I said, I'm maybe the 4th highway superintendent. And that is very important to us to have. When people leave and they retire, you know, everything you think is on paper or this or that. I come to this town hall, we look for plans in the backgrounds, but people leave, they serve their time, they do their job, next thing you know they retire. Well, guess what? All that knowledge has left. And with him coming in, giving me a hand and helping, I mean, he's coming in as a part-time figure with 20 less hours a week. If something should happen to me, I've been there almost 3 years now. I've had 7 days off, 5 because of a hernia operation, and 2 because of one for a dental and one for something else. I take the job very serious. I'm over-conscientious with the work that I do. But if something should happen to me, Mr. Fowler has the knowledge and capabilities to do what I need to have done if I can't make it in, if something should ever happen to me for emergency purposes of being out of work. And I really believe with the knowledge he has, he's a great asset to this house, to this town. We're not looking for any benefits or anything. I'm not putting him full-time position or anything. As far as double dipping, he's on a pension right now. From working for the town, he's not doing 2 jobs at the same time and getting 2 paychecks really from the town. It just is a little supplement he's gotten for helping me out. That's all it is.
And at this point, we're talking about taking this position through the end of the year at this point. You and I have not, just for clarity, you and I have not had a discussion about, you know, next year yet.
No,
Right.
I haven't. I've taken it through this year, but I'm hoping that, yes, well, honestly, I'm hoping fully, you know, hopefully that next year we can follow through with him also. Because, I mean, if something ever did happen to me, he does have the knowledge and background more than anybody in the highway department. He's had, you know, several years there. He knows what needs to be done and what needs to be carried through with many processes that we've gone through years and years with this town.
Thanks, Mr. Lamar.
I agree with most everything you said, Blair, except for the double dipping, because when you retire from a position and you go back working position very similar, if not the same position, that's double dipping. And so he's getting a pension from the town, and he's also getting a job with getting paid from the town. So that's double dipping, and that's one thing I'm against no matter who it is. I don't care who it is, I don't think you should have double dipping. I agree with you, he's got a lot of knowledge, and if you put him in for a period of time and let people learn from him, all right. But if you want to have him in for an extended period of time, you know.
Well, again, at this point officially, it's until the end of the year. Secondly, the term double dipping, when I picture double dipping, I consider someone who's retired, comes back to a full-time position with a full benefit package. I think this is a bargain. I think this is a bargain. You're getting someone with a wealth of knowledge, and Mr. Lamora, correct me if I'm wrong, a wealth of knowledge that you don't even find in any documents here in the town.
Right.
Okay? For a part-time salary, just enough to have one more pair of eyes, one more finger on the pulse. And like you said, what if you want to take your grandson to Yankee Stadium for a day? Okay? At least you know that the machine is well-oiled and still running. Okay? So I think that when you take someone of that kind of knowledge, and it's done at all levels of government, okay, who's not asking for a benefits package, and is looking for, again, basically compensation for the little bit of time that he's going to put in here, a fair compensation, I would think, for both the person receiving the pay and then. I don't consider that a crime of double dipping. I think that is an opportunity for some of the new people that Mr. Lamora has brought in, again, to repeat what he said, to even just to get close to the staffing numbers that he started with, okay? So he has not created any new positions. Is that a correct statement, Mr. Lamora? This is filling positions that have been vacated and the hands that you definitely need.
Right.
And he can help train those people. And again, I am not the highway superintendent, so I can't put a timeline on it. But I think he at least warrants the next 5 months, and then based on his productivity, based on his contribution, then we can talk in the budget process about next year.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second to make an amendment, if you will, or change to Resolution 20416. Ms. Marco, would you please call the roll?
To amend, Mr.
To amend.
Christo,
No.
Mr. Lamore,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera,
No.
Mr. Valano,
Yes.
Mr. Tomaso.
No.
3 noes.
Amendment does not
Yes,
pass.
does not pass.
Just make a note here for us. Okay, thank you. Okay, so
Did I say it right?
let's go back to,
What did I say?
I'm sorry, what was that?
I said it wrong.
The
To
motion does
amend
not
was-
pass. The motion does not pass.
And then
Yeah.
Steve said it didn't pass, so that's fine. Okay, just wanna make sure.
Sorry, sorry.
Did I make sure?
So, Resolution 20416, we'll go back to that. We have a motion by Councilmember Christou, a second by Councilmember Miller Herrera, authorized budget transfers by the town comptroller to various accounts for 2016. Please call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
No.
Mr. Tomaso?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 no.
Okay, thank you. Resolution 20416 passes. Now we go to Resolution 20516.
All right. Authorize the supervisor or designee to enter into an agreement with Rotterdam Police Benevolent Association to settle all claims related to the employee compensation,
Grievance.
employee grievance?
Yep.
Okay, I'm sorry,
Okay,
grievance
sorry. Grievance upon retirement.
upon retirement.
And again, we added that resolution during the agenda meeting with a motion by Councilmember Christou, and a second by Councilmember Miller Herrera. We all voted the affirmative to add the resolution. So would someone please make a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Councilmember Christou. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Miller Herrera. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Tomaso?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 20516 passes. So under committee reports, I just want to, there's some other things I wanted to mention tonight, but we're past 9 o'clock here, so I'll just bring up a couple of things. Again, the National Night Out, Mr. Garrow came up and spoke about that. I went to that event. It was phenomenal, a great event. More importantly, the vendors, the children, the people who were attending, the entertainment that was there, the organization, having all of that in one place at the Rotterdam soccer fields, behind Jefferson School, just phenomenal event. And supporting our police, our EMS, and fire. I just want to thank everyone who came together there. Secondly, I just want to mention, most, if not all, the youth leagues are complete in the town, baseball, et cetera, and I want to thank those families and, taking care of our parks and all the extra work that the families and the coaches commit to at our parks. And with that, it was Steiner Park a couple weekends ago. A few weekends ago, I just want to make mention that my cousin, I have a cousin, his name is Anthony, but cousin Tony, came down to the Steiner Park with me. We took some concrete that was really just in bad shape in front of one of the dugouts, two of the dugouts actually, but we completely removed a section. Mr. Lamora, the highway department went down there and put some blacktop in, made it nice surface there for folks to get in and out of the dugout. Then the following weekend, the Thunder baseball team, along with our Rotterdam Rotary, we all met down at Steiner Park and did a lot of work down there. We painted the dugouts, painted the concession building, and did some other minor work, if you will, around the park. Working together with the Challenger Tri-County League, and the Thunder baseball team and the town, we're going to be doing a lot of work down at West Steiner Park. So you can see a lot of changes there into the spring. Rotterdam Rotary has a member, his name, many of the members that were there, so I don't want to name them all because I'll forget one of them, but one of them in particular I just want to mention is Mylan Jackson. He works with Lamont Engineering. He also serves on our steering committee for a comprehensive plan, and he is going to be working with, again, the boards, if you will, or the presidents of the leagues there to design handicap accessible dugouts and some other work that needs to be done there in the fields down there. So we'll be doing a lot of that work in the fall preparation, and then hopefully in the spring get a lot of that completed. So I just wanted to give him an extra thumbs up for volunteering to do some work for those folks out there. And I have a few other things, but I'm going to delay. Anyone else?
Yeah, Mr. Supervisor, just to add to the Rotterdam Night Out, I can't emphasize enough what a great event it was. I think it's important to note a couple of things. Number one, the Rotterdam, New York Neighborhood Watch Group that put this event together in less than 4 months did the kind of work that takes other municipalities over a year to do. Okay, they did a phenomenal job. Secondly, it was the best part of that event, in my opinion, was the bringing together of all our public safety officials and our community. We had members of the Rotterdam Police Department there doing a great job with taking identity pictures of the kids. We had the state police were, what were they doing? They had a rollover simulator, and our sheriff's department passed out about 75 or 80 free bicycle helmets to the kids. So, I'm always been a big fan of bringing public safety, our community, our members of law enforcement closer to the community and eliminate that adversarial approach that many people tend to take. I want to thank all of our public safety departments, the fire, the state police, the sheriffs, and especially our own men in blue and ladies in blue, of course, in the Rotterdam Police Department. Thank you.
And one thing I should have mentioned, just to kind of close the loop, Senator Amador and Assembly Member Santa Barbara were there, and Congressman Taco was there. Who else? So it was a nice event. Nice event all the way around.
I also have one thing. I had the pleasure on July 23rd of working with the Parks Advisory Board, members of that committee, on the cleanup at Jaraka Park. We got to see it after some of the trees were taken down. It looked quite nice. It was really nice to see the improvements that are being made over there. We all brought our rakes, went out, filled up some bags, cleaned up sticks that had fallen off some of the trees that were taken down, and branches and things, cut back branches, made sure leaves were taken away from the fences. I put my 5-year-old daughter Violet to work with her little orange plastic rake, and she made it about 15 minutes before she ran off to the playground and ditched me, but it was worth a shot. Teach her some pride in her community as well. My husband did a much better job with the raking along the fence. And I'd like to thank County Legislature legislator Brian McGarry for also being present. I know we sent him home a couple times for equipment that we needed. He came back with a blower, he came back with duct tape, you know, we got some stuff done. And I want to thank everyone who came out. And I also appreciate our DPW coordinator for not being upset by my millions of Saturday morning texts about things that I wanted to see done and that he promptly took care of within a few days.
And all members of the Parks Committee were there. So Rosalind was there.
Rosalind was
Dan
there,
Garrow was
Mr. Garrow was there. There was a lot of people. I'm not even sure I saw everyone.
Paul Cook was there.
We had about 12.
Yeah, you had everybody there. I mean,
Pretty much.
yeah, you had everybody there.
Yeah, it was a
It was
good
nice.
crowd.
Andrea.
We were spread out. We were all along the edges cleaning up because the center of the park looked pretty good. So we made sure everything was cleaned up
In
along the
about
perimeter.
3 hours.
Nice.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to adjourn.
I don't know if you can do that. I'm just kidding.
I second.
Anyone else, though, before we do that? We don't have a need for an executive session this evening, correct? Just a double check. All right, so we have a motion by
second.
Councilmember Christou and a second by Councilmember Miller Herrera to adjourn. Want to call the roll?
Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
Teacher.
Everyone, thank you very much for coming to the board meeting this evening.